Well, hi, this is Ken with Village Green, and today I wanted to show you a very special landscape. This is my own. So this is a special landscape. This is actually at my place, and I asked David Daigle to do the design for me a couple of years ago, and we finally got the chance to install it. The main things that we were looking for were my wife wanted a lot of color, so you'll see that we have a lot of different plants that will give a lot of different color. We wanted to bring the beds out a little bit. We had stackable stone, or what used to be called Windsor wall stone, which I wanted to replace for the border. And then one of the things that we had to work around, we have these magnificent crepe myrtles. These are some of the largest crepe myrtles I've seen in the area. It's gorgeous. That stackable stone was around both of these, the crepe myrtles at either end, which made them stand up pretty tall in the landscape. So what we did was we put this river rock around to kind of make a little bit of a skirt over the top of the roots. And then we used, this is called plum yew, and this will get maybe another, it'll get somewhere around 1.5 feet tall, and as it spreads out, it's going to lean out over the top of the river rock, and it's going to soften some of those edges. We wanted to frame the house and the border, or the beds, so these are Obsession nandinas, these feathery plants. These will get about 3, maybe 4 feet tall, and frame the house. In the back, the tall plant that's existing, and that is a gold dusted Cuba. It got beaten up just a little bit from the freezes, and it's starting to come back and looking good. We didn't want to just pull it out. As a backdrop, this is called Soft Caress Mahonia, and it's going to get, about 2 feet tall or so, maybe a little bit taller. This is a great plant to use in the shade, and because my home faces north, all of these plants need to do well in the shade. In front of those, these are Anthony Water Spirea, and those will have a really nice bloom over the summertime, very consistent bloomer. And in front of that is an evergreen plant called variegated sedge, which it's evergreen, but it gives a nice different color of green, makes it pop out in the shade. In front of that, we have columbine, which will bloom in the springtime. And then if you're looking for a plant that does really well when we have the scorcher type summers, this is it. This is dwarf Mexican petunia. You can see this one has a purple bloom. Typically it gets about 6 inches or so tall. It is a little bit of a spreader, but it doesn't grow that fast, and it's pretty easy to keep contained. But it grows really, really well in this area. As we move on across, we use pretty consistently, this is giant liriope. This makes for a really good filler plant. It's evergreen, doesn't mind the heat, doesn't mind the cold. It's fine in the sun, it's fine in the shade. It's just a really good plant to use. It'll get about 2 feet tall, which makes it really nice to put if you have a window in the front. So we'll put these frequently in front of windows. Tucked in the back is what's called an oak leaf hydrangea. I like to use these in shady areas where there's just kind of a nook for us to put it in. It'll get about 4 feet tall, 4 maybe 5 feet tall. It blooms in the spring, and it also in the fall it'll turn a reddish color. In the wintertime it drops all of its leaves. It is deciduous, but that's okay because where we always place them, they'll really stand out when it's coming up and blooming and looking good. And then we will put evergreen plants around it so that you don't notice it when it disappears in the wintertime. This is a plant called ice plant. It can be a little, as my grandmother used to say, persnickety. Sometimes it does really, really well. Other times we've run into it can struggle, but it blooms really well. It's a little bit like a moss rose, but it comes back every year. And then to frame the house, we used, these are flirt nandinas to frame on either side of our entry. And then we left spaces. This was installed in late summer, so we didn't have any annuals to put in, but we will put in annuals on either side. And then we continue the pattern that we used over on the right-hand side. We continue that on the left. Those again are gold dust of Cuba in the back. Those were actually original here. We just cut them back because they were looking kind of rough from the summertime. But we have the ice plants and the giant liripe. And then the other thing to notice, a couple of other things to notice that we used here, we have the stone border. And then we also have, if you look closely, you can see that we have outdoor lighting, which totally changes this landscape and makes it look great in the evening. So I went a little bit longer on this one than I typically would, because after all, it is my place. But I thought you'd enjoy seeing all the different features that we have here. This is Ken with Village Green. If you like these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channels and send them on to your friends and family. Village Green, growing plants, growing people, and growing relationships.